I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending February the 10th, where we had feeder steers and heifers selling steady to $3 higher for the week. The full advance, and I mean nearly all the advance, seen in the southern plains and in the mountain states, out in Colorado and Wyoming and in the southern plains in Texas and Oklahoma there, where they saw almost all the gain. The steady for the most part, and even some signs of weakness were seen in the northern plains, where we've seen those huge prices, the highest prices that we've ever seen, and we're starting to see those feedlots and even those farmer feeders back off of those just a little bit. So steady to $3 higher, pretty much caught it all through the central portions of the United States. Now your stocker cattle and calves, they just keep going up. $3 to $7 higher this week, especially in the southeast. And it seems like this week they got a whole new pot of orders coming in there for grazing cattle all throughout the southeast, and that 3 to 7 higher was very consistent throughout your southeastern calf markets. But we're seeing a feeder price ceiling on these bigger feeding cattle going right into the feedlot. At the way the fat market is right now, and the way the cost of gains are in the feedlot, they've just about got to the maximum that they can give on these feeder cattle going into the feedlot. That is, if they want to make money on them or attempt to. But we're right there, and a lot of these cattle that are going in right now need to bring $1.30, $1.35 to even break even. And we've stalled out right here in the mid-20s right now. And these packers are really digging their heels in, and they're just bound and determined that they're not going to give any more. We've seen in the last week or so the smallest weekly cattle slaughter that we've seen since March of 2009, and that was only because an unexpected storm come through and forced some plants to close. Very, very, very tight gills, slow change speeds, whatever you want to call it, but they are determined to limit their immediate needs for cattle and just get by on their captive supplies. On the other hand, stocker cattle are not really showing any signs. Calves and your kind of lightweight yearling, short yearling cattle that can go on to grass or something to turn out on, they're not showing any signs of really backing off yet. And if you run the numbers, you can see why. We just talked about how your feeder cattle just don't have any room to grow anymore unless we start getting a lot more for fats or grain gets a lot cheaper. On the other hand, your stocker cattle, and we're getting closer and closer to grass all the time. We've had a real mild winter here, but turn those cattle out on grass, depending on where you run them, but you can run them in those major grazing areas, the Flint Hills or down in the Osage or somewhere like that, and expect to get a gain 50 to 60 cents on the pound a gain. Well, on those lighter weight cattle like that, the pound is worth so much. The pound might be worth a whole dollar more than what it costs to put it on. So you could buy a $2 500-pound steer and back that steer up in price as you put those cheap pounds on. And they're advertised right now in the summer to bring $158 based on a 750-pound steer. There's money still to be made there. So, we figure as we get closer to spring, those things are going to keep getting higher, and they undoubtedly will as we get past the chance of having more winter weather, and guys can actually straighten them up on the grass as opposed to having to shut them up and put money in them, getting them to the grass. But we'll probably see those prices get quite a bit higher. A year ago this week, had a giant snowstorm come through the center part of the Midwest there, and up to 20 inches of snow, and temperatures as low as 30 degrees below zero, and closed nearly all your major feeder cattle auction markets all through Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Joplin, Springfield, all the way through there. And that was a year ago this week. Now this year, Torrington Livestock Commission out in Wyoming there had a big sale, 5,300 head, over 750 head of steers, top quality, average 552 pounds on the 5 weights, average 197.61. They had another 275 weight steers that they call fancy, They average 543 pounds at 203.78. And then to boot, on top of that, just in your light 6 weights, another 500 head of light 6 weight steers that dentists thought were fancy. They average 613 pounds at 186.68. Huge prices. Fats this week. Texas got a buck up on them at $124, gained $1 from last week. The rest of the 5 areas sold from 123 to 123.5, which was pretty much steady to 50 cents lower and steady to $1 lower dress from 197 to 198. This week's regional weighted averages. In the northern plains this week, 7 to 800 pound steer cost you 156.04 compared to exactly 156.04 last week, which was amazing, and 126.73 a year ago this week. In the southern plains, 7 to 800 pound steer this week cost you 153.87, which shows they're gaining on the northern plains feeder steers. Last week, 7 to 8 weight steer in the southern plains cost 151.93. Year ago this week, 125.59. And down in the southeast, if you're going to order a load of 400 to 500 pound steer this week, cost you 181.99 compared to 178.41 last week and just 134.91 a year ago. That wraps up our markets for this week. Check out our website for more market news information at marketnews.usda.gov. From the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.